Thank you for joining us today for Pagosa Local News. My name is Gabrielle Dorr, and I'm here with
Ariana,
Noah,
and Noah.
And these lovely young people are the ones that organized the recent protest here for Black Lives Matter. And this was in Pagosa Springs, your hometown. So tell us about the moment that inspired you to want to organize this protest.
Well, what my plan is I have a lot of social media apps, and I've been seeing a lot of injustice, and with the other protests going on in the bigger cities and seeing the police brutality and how bad it's been getting, I wanted to speak out or do something about it in this small town and make it, get the word out. And you could do donations and you could do petitions, but I felt like that wasn't enough for me. So I set up a little protest, and my original plan was just to have a few people come, like a few close friends, and then it grew into this huge group of people who wanted to come and join us, which was absolutely amazing to me. So that was the inspiration behind it all.
I'd been keeping up with the news and whatnot of all of the different instances of police brutality that had been going on and different examples of systemic oppression that had been going on in our country. And like Noah, was frustrated at what I was seeing, and I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to protest and do those sorts of things, but I wasn't sure how to do that in a good way in my own hometown, because I wasn't sure if people thought like how I did, that this is some pretty crazy things that are going on in our country right now.
I feel like a big part of why I wanted to do it too is because I feel like Pagosa kind of gets away with not getting involved in a lot of things going on in the world. And I feel like, even though there's these big things going on in the rest of the country, I feel like it doesn't hit like that here because we're so used to not seeing those kind of things here. And I feel like bringing the protest here kind of hit closer to home for people and force them to listen and force them to care pretty much. Like, you can't keep ignoring it just because it doesn't happen here, Like, this is something that affects all of us, and I think that was kind of the inspiration too, was to bring it to these people that don't normally have to deal with anything like that.
Great. So we're talking about the protest that happened in Pagosa Springs on June 5th and 6th, right? Was it 2 days? Okay. And so kind of continuing on what you said, have you, either of you been or any of you been to a protest before? And what was different about doing it here in your hometown?
I've never done one.
You want to speak on
Yeah, I
it?
think you're the only one.
Yeah, I've been to a few protests, mostly in the Washington D.C. area. I was unsure of how to do it in our community here in Pagosa Springs because it's a different community here than D.C. There's already elements and organizations that are set up to do these things in that county, but there aren't those things in Archuleta, so it had to be a bit more of a grassroots DIY setup and operation, which I think turned out really well. I'm really proud of our community for coming out and being peaceful, even if you weren't marching with the protest or were standing against it. Everyone remained peaceful, and I think that says a lot about our community. And the amount of conversations that I've had with people who have very differing views on than the ones that I have. The discussions that have come up because of these protests and the ideas that are being talked about in this town have changed since then, and I see that as a really good thing. Agreeing with what Ariana said, I think Pagosa is a beautiful place. It is a shelter. A lot of people come here to rejuvenate, but that doesn't mean that the problems of the world aren't here too. And they may not be as vast or as broad or even as bad as other places, but there are still issues here that we want to grow and help and change, because no matter who you are in a society, you want it to get better. Mm-hmm. And so we see this as a necessary thing before we do anything else in the country to better, because if all of humanity is not being treated equally across the board, then how are we to even change the lives of part of our humanity if we aren't starting out at a equal basis of how we are treated across the board? it can really fracture a community in a lot of ways.
Those are really good points. Thank you. And so this question's for you. So this was kind of your, it sounds like you were kind of the instigator and then everyone kind of jumped in and helped. So how did it go for you? And would you do anything differently?
The first protest that we had, it went really well. The thing that for me personally was I was not expecting to see 200 people show up. So I was really shocked, and I was kind of scared and nervous because I've never led a group that big before. I've never, had any leadership role in anything before. So I was thinking to myself, what the heck do I do, And that's, since he has had, experience with protests before, I went to him for advice because I wanted some help because I didn't know what to do. And it was basically, just be loud. He helped me with the chants and stuff and gave me ideas on how to do it. And the next day, on the second protest, I got a little bit more ballsy and decided to be louder. I led the group a lot better, which I was proud of myself about because he was kind of doing it the first time and I felt bad. So if I were to do anything in the future, because I do see more of this type of stuff in Pagosa coming, I just personally want to take more of a leadership role because that's something I've always been scared about. So if I set something up, I definitely want to keep it more organized and be more vocal myself. And yeah, that's about it.
Sounds like it was like kind of a coming out for you in a way.
Yeah, and
Cool.
One of my teachers, I'm going a little bit tiny bit off topic, one of my old teachers had told me that she sees me being made for this kind of thing, and that was kind of inspiring, so it made me feel really good, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll keep doing stuff like this.